Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Knight. I'm the Development Director for the Museum of Ventura County. Thank you very much for making time in your day today to join us for an update from the Barbara Barnard Smith Executive Director, Elena Brokaw. We will hear from other directors as well. A little bit of housekeeping. The Q&A is open, so type your questions in there and we're going to leave plenty of time at the end to answer them. Deputy Director Denise Sindelar will be tracking questions throughout the entire presentation, so we will make sure that we have time to get to them. We are recording today's presentation and we will be sending everybody a link to it tomorrow. And thank you very much for being here, and thank you for being a member of the Museum of Ventura County. Without further ado, I will turn it over to the Barbara Barnard Smith Executive Director, Elena Brokaw. And give me just a second here. This is our first Zoom presentation, so I'm going to make sure that we're doing it all right here. Elena, you're up.
I think I am. Hi, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be there. I really wish I could see all of your faces. I see a lot of familiar names in the participants box and some that are not so familiar. So thank you for joining us. I'm just going to launch right in, but I do really want to thank a few people first. The staff for putting together the logistics today, but especially for creating so much content that enables us to have something to talk about that's substantive for half an hour or 40 minutes before we get to your questions. The board for enabling us to still be here and doing what I believe is really important work. And then I really want to give a shout out to Food Share and Monica White. Some of you were probably on that video presentation that she did a couple of weeks ago, and we 100% stole this idea from her and her team. So thank you to Food Share. I have put together a little slideshow so that you don't have to just look at me. If I can make my, yeah, okay. So hopefully you can see a slide that says what we will talk about today. And if you can't, Eric or Denise or Jonathan, please step up and let me know that there's a problem. So I'm going to do an update and talk about 5 things. So number one, what we've done since March, early March, in light of the pandemic and the shutdowns, what our plans are for the next few months, our financial status and outlook, because I know a lot of you were concerned about that. We're going to talk about our response to the movement for racial justice. And then if we have time, I'm going to visit our Reinvention / strategic plan a little bit and talk about next year's goals. Okay, so let's start with how we responded to the pandemic when it became clear on March 12th that we would need to close. It is fascinating. What we thought we knew on March 12th versus what we were doing on March 19th, a week later, it was a 180-degree difference. So on March 12th, when we realized we needed to close on Friday the 13th, I don't know. What we thought is that we could keep the staff busy with some delayed projects. You know, we all have those. But we really thought we were going to be pretty much dormant and mothballed. And we thought that because what we think of when we think of the museums, we think of the buildings. We think of people coming to the galleries. We think of kids going through for tours. We think of people coming for lectures and concerts in the pavilion and in the gardens. And we didn't see, without being able to welcome people to our site, how we were going to be able to continue to serve people. But we, as I hope most of you know, we were dead wrong. And within a week, like I said, we had done a 180-degree turn and we flipped from being entirely a site-based institution to an online digital institution. And I'm just going to do a few highlights of some of the programs that we've been able to do, but I'm going to let the people who created those programs talk about them instead of it being me. So I'm going to go mute and ask our Deputy Director, Denise Sindelar, to step in and talk about some of our programs.
Thank you, Elena. Sorry, a couple moment delay. I want to give you just a quick overview of some of the things that hopefully you've had a chance to visit on our website. We currently have 9 virtual tours on the website and are planning to launch our 10th in September on the history of transportation in Ventura County. Like museums around the globe, virtual tours are an example of the new normal for the future. We're reaching audiences around the country with our new online content. Next slide. Our virtual learning modules, beginning immediately in March, as our school tours began to cancel, the education team, led by manager Bob Cromwell and museum educator Stephen Christek, began developing online learning modules to assist teachers and parents in the distance learning all schools began with the shutdown. Highly popular, fun, educational, these modules have been used by teachers throughout the county to engage their students in the museum's programs. Next slide. So we are partnering with the museum, the Oil Museum and the Santa Paula Art Museum to create these museum on the go kits. Last Saturday, we partnered with the Oil Museum for a grab and go drive-through at the Ag Museum that allowed families to drive through and pick up science kits and Victory Garden kits. We had visitors who came from as far as Simi Valley and Ventura to drive through, and as you can see in this picture, we are sorely missed, and many of the families said they cannot wait until we can reopen. Next slide. So the MVC Insider, over the last several weeks, this 6-week series was created by Jonathan McGee. And Jonathan is our museum's marketing and outreach specialist. He, in collaboration with the museum's key management team, including our chief curator, ag museum manager, education manager, and the research and archives staff, have been working to create these Facebook Live segments that have been designed to daylight and to give the public a sneak peek behind the scenes here at the museum. They have worked to highlight objects and images from farm implements to the art collection and our historic objects. All of these behind the scenes stories have allowed the public to, through Facebook Live, to just log in and ask questions and be answered in real time. We'll be continuing this series later this fall. And now I'll turn it over to Dea Terrafranca, who is our Director of Research, Library and Archives.
Dea is actually not here, and Denise did not talk about some of our community support programs. One of our goals during the pandemic has been to help as many people as we can who are truly suffering economically and socially, et cetera. So we've done a few programs specifically designed to bring stipends or more financial support to artists and historians. One of them is that we put the Ojai Studio Artists show that we have up at the Pavilion online, all sales online, and we stopped taking any commission. This picture on the right is from our garden at the Ag Museum, and this was a part of, I forget how many pounds of food that were donated to Food Share. And we have some other programs like that. Now, Dea Terrafranca, our Research Library and Archives Director, unfortunately is not here because she is talking to the county libraries right now. So I'm going to try to talk about what the Research Library and Archives have been doing. And I won't do nearly as good a job, but I'll try. So I think one of the library volunteers and docents, Andy Ludlam, is participating in this call today. I want to do a real salute and thank you to Andy, because he was one of the keys that got us to figure out how important and relevant and timely online content could be. He had written a blog about the Ventura Bathhouse, which included a lot of information about the 1918 and 1919 flu in Ventura County. And, you know, we write historical articles, and some of them are very specific and appeal to a niche audience, and some of them are really broad. And that one turned out to have this incredibly broad appeal and be relevant right now. So we have been doing MVC then blogs quite a bit. Last week one did come, Andy worked on one that came out about the flu in Oxnard using all of the Oxnard Press Courier archives. This is a photo from that. So this is 1919 in Oxnard. a photo from our collection. We also have really been working on what we call rapid response collecting. That's what the museum field calls it. And what it means is that when big things happen in our community, in our society, there are a lot of ephemeral posters that are made and little projects that are done. And we're really trying to collect those so that in 100 years, our collection can show what was happening in our community right now. We started doing that actually after the Women's March in 2017. We did it with the Thomas Fire. We did it with the borderline shootings, doing it with COVID-19. We're doing it with the protests. We do this whenever there's a huge societal wave of something. And there seem to be a lot of waves of that going on right now. We did a lot of games. I believe my mother, Ellen Brokaw, is on this call, and she is completely addicted to our jigsaw puzzles, so much so that her hand got sore from moving clicking all the pieces together. They're really fun. I highly recommend that you go onto our website and find them. And we've also been doing these Quizlets. And people are invited to do that. And then when they complete it, they get a gift certificate to a small business of their choice. Again, a way for us to support the local economy. And the team has been able to digitize over 2,000, maybe I'm wrong on that. No, over 1,000 photos since we went down. And that has had a huge impact. They're all searchable on our website. Go to photographs.venturamuseum.org. We deliver all of this content in our weekly, it was weekly, now it's bi-weekly email. We also do it through social media. And one of the things that we're doing is, it might seem like we're sending out all this content into the ether, and we don't actually know how important or relevant it is. So early on, we started tracking what we're doing, and I want to show you one of the ways that we do that. So as I said, we send off these weekly emails, and we have an open rate. That means those of you who get them, 33% of you on average each week open that email. And let me show you how that compares to the national nonprofit average. That's at about 25%. So we're exceeding the national nonprofit average. The other way we look at it is the click rate. So let's just say you open the email and then you saw Andy's blog on the flu in Oxnard. You click on that. So we measure your click rate. And ours is up at, I think it was more than, it's 14% now. And here's the national click rate on emails that come from nonprofits. It's at 3%. So we look at this every week and we figure out what's working, and then we focus a little bit more on that. Okay, so that's what we have been doing. So we went from site-based to completely online. But now things are changing. So now we have a new set of plans. We call it our Reimagined plans for the next 3 to 6 months. So our plan currently, but I stress that a lot of things are up in the air. I don't need to tell you that things are changing very quickly. Our plan currently is to reopen to members on July 15th. We will open to everybody starting August 1st. So 2 weeks from today, open for members. We're going to have very limited hours. We will be open 2 days at the Ventura main site per week, 2 days at the Ag Museum per week, and we will have the Albinger Museum open 1 day per week. And I want to thank the city and the county for continuing to support us with their funds. That's how we're able to do that. We sent out a survey. About 300 people responded to it saying, hey, what's going to make you feel safe to come back to the museum? And we got some pretty clear messages. They're by far the top 4 things that would make people safe were having social distancing in place, hand sanitizer on site, staff wearing masks, and avoiding lines. So we're putting a lot of new stuff into place. Let me try to run through some of it. We have doubled the number of staff that we will have on site at any one time. We will have dedicated bathroom attendants. We will have people cleaning up every surface, doorknobs, et cetera, et cetera. We are purchasing ticketing software, and we will have timed entry. So that will limit the number of people in. We have a limit on numbers of people or groups in the galleries. It's either a total of 18 people at one time or 6 groups, whichever is lower. Cashless and touchless visitor admission. Everybody will be required to wear masks, staff and more, and we have removed all of the interactive and touchable exhibits and activities, which is very sad, particularly over at the Agriculture Museum. But we are quickly working on ways that particularly kids can still participate in a way that is safe. One of our priorities also is to get the docents and the volunteers back to the museum where they can work safely. We are working on setting up some room in the pavilion for social distancing for some of the library volunteers. The biggest unknown for us is when the education docents who do tours will be able to come back. We do not anticipate having any tours until 2021. Again, if that changes, we will be nimble and we will be able to address that. Okay, now that's what we're doing on site. But as I said, we pivoted 100% to this online programming and we can't stop that. So we are committed to continuing to do that as well. Last week, we did our first film lecture series with Ivor Davis. We will continue those. We are going to be having a special moderated discussion with Dolores Huerta and Jorge Corralejo, Ana Bermudez. That will be in July or August. We are about to send off the first of a documentary series that we're doing on the families of Isabel and William Dewey Hobson. William Dewey Hobson was the father of Ventura County. So we will be continuing to do all of those programs. And we will be continuing our support programs. We're doing a partnership with the Ventura Botanical Gardens starting July 18th. We're providing stipends to sculptors to have a sculpture show up there. And I think we're going to be doing, actually, Denise, maybe you can answer this in the Q&A. We're going to be sharing, members of the museum will have free entry to the botanical gardens. I just don't know for how long. I know that that's happening. I'm just not sure how long that reciprocal membership will go. We're also going to be doing paid internship programs for local history students and basically commissioning them to write articles on underrepresented voices in our community. And we've established an historic advisory committee to advise us on the creation of a new county history exhibit, which will launch in 2022 or 2023. The exhibits that we had just installed at the museum, some of them have never been seen. They will stay up at least until the end of September. We are going to be, it just sort of depends on how much we're able to be open. If we're able to increase our open hours and more people can come in, maybe we'll do a switch in end of September, October, but we may not. Okay, now all of this, I will just say, costs a lot more than it has in the past. I talked about all the additional attendance that we'll have on site. That's going to add about $1,000 a week for us to keep the museum open just for those limited hours. But we are committed to opening the museum. So let me transition into our financial status and assure you about the stability of the museum. So as a lot of you know, we went through a lot of difficulties in 2017. We almost closed. And as a result of that, we started down a path of, we started a reinvention strategy, essentially. One of the cornerstones of which was the finances. So let me just show you, let's take you back in time a little bit. Back in 2016, this was where the museum got its revenue from. Okay, so fine, it's a pie chart, whatever, doesn't seem that startling, but it does when you compare it to the average North American museum in 2016. When we compared these two charts back in 2016, this provided a roadmap for us. I don't think you can see it, but the point is we want to get from that upper left pie to the bottom right pie. We can't get there overnight, but we wanted to start moving in that direction. I actually want to show you where we are this year. We are moving in that direction, as you can see. We have a long way to go, but we are definitely beginning to expand in other areas. The only place we're not doing so great in is foundations, which we are aware of. So that positive momentum, which is the result of the hard work of so many of you out there, means that we're in a place, we went into the pandemic in a place where we were not overly dependent on any one revenue stream. We are taking reductions in every source of revenue, but we weren't entirely dependent on one specific area, which is really good for us. I do want to show you, we have taken big reductions. This left column here, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor. Those were our revenues and expenses. We're bringing in 3.7 million, spending 3.7 million. That was our plan for 2020. Once the pandemic hit, we did immediate major reductions, as you can see. So we're on track. We will spend and bring in $2.6 million this year. Our fiscal year ends. Oh, it ended yesterday. Our fiscal year ended yesterday. And this current fiscal year, which started today, ends June 30th of 2021, we will be bringing in and spending a little under 3 million, 2.9. So it's about a 23% reduction from what we were on track to be doing before. We've done that by, unfortunately, we're putting either salary reductions or furloughs for all regular full-time employees of 6% at least, in some cases a little bit more, cutting administrative costs. We had to do some layoffs. So it's not easy. I do want to stress that. But the good news is it is sustainable. So I want to turn it over to Eric Knight now, our development director, to say a couple of words about the successful fundraising effort that just happened, which was led by our board vice chair, Bill Kearney, and former board member, Esther Wachtel.
Yeah, that's right. The Keeping History Alive appeal was sent out in mid-May, started in mid-May, led by a group of individual donors who stepped up and provided gifts of $10,000 to the museum. Inspired by those leaders, the fundraising efforts expanded and continued to date. And to date, this appeal has generated $140,000 of much needed support. We just hit the $140,000 mark a couple of days ago. And I know that some of you watching this presentation donated to this effort, to this fundraising appeal. And all of you, as members of the Museum of Ventura County, are donors through your membership fees. And you are the reason that we are able to do, even in these crazy, crazy times, what we do, and to continue to achieve our vision of inspiring vibrant communities by connecting the past, present, and future. And the support is so very, very important for so many reasons. The museum, obviously, like I just mentioned, is extremely valuable as an institution for connecting community. And it's extremely valuable for exhibiting art and history, for offering education programs. And also, no one other than the Museum of Ventura County is going to safeguard our history. So we appreciate you. And we appreciate all the visitors, all the donors. And as members, we are continually looking for ways to obviously continue bringing you the value of membership, but also to increase that, to bring new benefits. And there are new benefits on the way. Moving forward, the museum is going to be offering at least one members only perk per month. We have several of them lined up right now already. This could be any number of things. This could be exclusive access to an online event, a free gift, exclusive access to something happening at the museum when we come around to that time that we're having gatherings at the museum again. Member appreciation event at the museum. If that's not going to turn out to be possible in person, we're going to have an alternative for member appreciation this year, or it could be something else entirely. But we definitely are making it a priority to have more members only perks and to ensure that there's at least one members only perk per month moving forward. Additionally, all active memberships are going to be extended by 4 months to compensate for the time that we are closed. So you'll be seeing communications sent to you reflecting your new your new expiration date for your membership. So with that, thank you again for being members and supporting the Museum of Ventura County. And I'm going to turn it back to Elena.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you all of you out in this audience who have done so much to enable us to continue doing this important work. So now that hopefully we've assuaged any concerns you might have about the museum's longevity or ability to continue, I want to turn to our museum's response to an ever-widening call for racial justice in the nation. These are some photos from the VC Star of things that have been going on here. Again, we're doing rapid response collecting, and we're collecting our own photos and stories. So let me just talk for a second about museums across the nation. We have been under fire during all of this. And I mean, there are a lot of reasons. Museums are traditionally Caucasian staffed, and the boards and volunteers are, as are the donors, et cetera. But I think essentially, and these are just some of the headlines, the core of the reason that museums are being attacked is for not saying enough, or if they are saying, not doing. So not being sincere in their statements of support and solidarity with underheard voices, minorities. I think a lot of that can be summed up in one article. This came out on CNN with this very scary title. 4 members of the board of directors sent this to me, including our board chair, Kate, who I believe is here. And the board has asked me to start thinking about, can we have a facilitated conversation, a retreat around this issue? I really encourage you all to read this article. Like I said, it's on CNN. Just type in abolish museums, it'll pop up. But I think it's really interesting and has some thought-provoking thoughts. So I could sit here all afternoon and talk to you about what is the role of the museum at this time. I think it is fascinating. I think what history is fascinating. How we choose what stories is fascinating. And I look forward to being able to continue to talk about that. But let's talk about what our museum is doing. So after a lot of thought, we came up with these 4 key roles for us to do at this and all times. So our job right now is to inspire and promote dialogue, foster a culture of the inclusion of diverse perspectives and populations, document the regional activism and response, and share the history of regional events that speak to what is happening now. So how are we doing these things? I'd like to pause here for a second and say that I'm about to tell you a whole bunch of ways in which we are addressing these. And I'm very proud of the ways in which this museum is doing that. But I don't want anybody to feel like I'm saying, hey, we're doing a great job here. I think that there is a lot of need to be extremely proactive about ensuring that underheard voices feel comfortable speaking out, and that it is incumbent upon us to help that. So please don't think from what I'm about to report that I'm saying, hey, we're just doing great and this isn't an issue for us. I think it's an issue for everybody. But I also think that we're pretty lucky right now, because back in 2017, we really started looking at what the DNA of our museum was like. And at that time, part of our reinvention or strategic plan was to make our museum the antithesis of what one thinks of as a traditional museum, or to turn that idea on its head. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that museums, like all institutions, they have some invisible rules that apply to anybody who visits them. So you all know what the rules about the museum are, right? The first one is don't touch anything, which by the way is totally good during COVID, but not necessarily usually. You don't run in a museum, please. You don't talk very loud in a museum. You don't go in really bedraggled clothing. There's just these rules that many of us know. Many of us don't know them, and so we're concerned that we're going to break the rules if we go in. And I think one of the biggest unspoken rules for museums is that as a participant or somebody who's going, you realize that you're going in and you're going to be educated by somebody who is much smarter, who knows much, much, much more, and is going to tell you the way to think. So back in 2017, we said, no, let's not do that. Let's make our museum a place where you can touch things. Well, let's make our museum a place where kids can run around, or adults. I mean, we're not going to stop you. Let's make our museum a place where we encourage laughter and dialogue. And instead of people coming into our museum and being told how to feel, let's ask people how they feel. Let's get those stories and let's tell those stories. We'll conserve those stories. We'll save those stories. So that is a lot of the goal of what we're doing. And I think that has gotten us off on a good start towards inclusivity, equity, and diversity. Again, we have a long way to go. I also do want to say that, like many nonprofits, we have a predominantly Caucasian staff and board, and we are aware of that. Back in 2018, the board rewrote all of the committee descriptions with an aspirational goal of having them have makeup that reflects the broad diversity, geographical, socioeconomic, ethnic, et cetera, of our county. We have a long way to go towards that. And it's not as simple as just going out and getting some other people. We have to think about, when do our committees meet? How do we communicate? What are we asking of people? It's a very complicated, deep effort. So let's see, and also we're changing our collections policy, and as you heard me say earlier, we're making an effort to get stories that have not been collected by the museum. I just wanted to share this with you. This is fascinating. We participated in a national museum survey. The survey happened, I think, February through April, or maybe January through March. So a while ago. I mean, actually not that long ago. But in this day and age, it seems like forever ago. And two of the questions were, should museums take a position? Okay, so I think that those of us who are reading these articles, it's really clear that people are wanting museums to take a position right now. But back when people did this response, there were quite a bit of people who wanted museums to always be neutral. Quite a bit of people who wanted us to take a position if it's evidence and mission-based, and barely anybody who wants us to be an activist organization, which is what museums are being called upon absolutely to do right now. So I just thought I would share that with you, because those are the kinds of things that we think about as we're thinking about how to be more relevant and sustainable, et cetera. My little alarm went off, so I'm going to stop pretty soon, because I'm sure none of you needs to spend a full hour on a Zoom call, but I will tell you, I think one of the reasons that we have been successful in going towards a sort of a real changing and effort to make the museum more sustainable is that we have a reinvention plan. We check in on this every month. We look at how we're progressing. We have 5-year goals. We have 1-year objectives. In each of these categories, this year that just started, we have some pretty lofty ambitions in transparent governance. It's about getting committee membership, getting 20% new people into the committees. That's an incredibly lofty goal. We, of course, are looking to create more online programs. We're going to complete a build out of the children's garden in Ventura, develop a solution for storage needs for the arts collection. We have a lot that we're continuing to do in the future. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you to the board of directors of this museum. Thank you to the former board of directors of this museum. Thank you to our committee members who do so much hard work, and our supporters, and our staff team. And with that, I am going to stop sharing this and see if we have any questions that you would like answers to.
So yes, Elena, a question came in from Ivor Davis asking when we might be able to start providing programs such as Chris Hillman's concert last year, or any of the live programming that we recorded with CAPS Media.
Providing it online, or providing it online?
Online.
as soon as we are able to get the appropriate permissions and get it posted up on the website. So Denise, have we shared the concert, the harmonics concert yet?
No, that's going to go out later this month.
Okay, so we are working on that right now. All of this stuff, you and Ivor, I know that you share the pain with me about online technology. I don't know all of the ins and outs of the back end of technology. All I know is that it's significant. So as soon as we can get all that worked out.
Okay, and then there's a question here from our board member, Betsy Chess. She's asking, when do you anticipate people who need to use the museum archives for research will be able to do so? And also, how do you envision that working?
That is a great question. Dea has been able to join us, and she can join in. And in fact, I think I'll just turn it over to you, Dea, and if I can add anything if necessary.
Sure, thank you. So one of the things that I've been waiting for is a study from OCLC, IMLS, and Battelle, which are huge entities in the library and museum world. They're studying how long COVID-19 actually lasts on materials. And the first phase of their research is complete. And COVID-19 remains on materials for 3 days. Currently, what we're working on is a solution for access to the collection for our volunteers, possibly in another space at the museum, so we can actually bring materials to them. For a period of time after libraries are allowed to open up, any researchers coming in would need to do so probably by appointment. So that's how we will handle things moving forward.
Great. So then our next question comes in from Linda Kimbrough. Linda's the president of the Docent Volunteer Council. And if you want, Elena, I'm happy to take that. It's any plans for volunteer recruitment at this point in time. And yes, Linda, actually volunteer recruitment is ongoing. During this time in which people have been stuck at home, believe it or not, people are really eager to reach out to the museum to see how they might be able to help us with research projects, things that can happen at home. Most recently, we had 12 members of the National Charity League out at the Ag Museum helping to assemble all of the grab and go bags. So we created social distancing best practices and had a really kind of fun-filled morning with moms and daughters assisting with that program. We have 2 new volunteers and we have 3 new interns, college students who are working in the research library. So even though we've closed to the public, volunteer recruitment is ongoing. Let's see, let me check and see if there's anything. Okay, and that is the last question. So I think we're gonna, hold on one second, some more pop it in. Marcia Stock is asking, what is being collected for rapid response collecting, the type of items and topics?
I'll hop in for that one. So when it comes to our rapid response collecting, we can't physically take objects right now, obviously, because of COVID-19. But we are asking for stories that people have written, their recollections. If anybody is keeping a diary during this time, that is something, rapid response collecting doesn't have to be right this instant. It's something that you can hold on to and share with the museum later. We do have an online portal where people can submit digital photographs, written accounts, oral histories, videos that are taken. And you can submit right now around the protests that are taking place or around how your life is impacted by COVID-19. It could be your life, it could be parents' lives, children's lives, coworkers' lives, anything along those lines. Okay,
thank you, Dea. I have a question from an attendee who wishes to remain anonymous, but they're assuming that the survey is showing very little support for activism regarding museums taking a position that point of view may be changing as a result of the national protest. What are your thoughts about that, Elena?
That is a great question. I don't think that will change, because I think that the people who are taking that survey are the people who already go to museums and value museums and are not seeing there to be a real need for change for the museums, which leaves us in an interesting place, because what's being really called for is an expansion of who comes to museums, because we're telling stories of populations that have never had their story told in a way that they think is sincere and deep enough, etc. And I think that that's one of the moments of reckoning for museums right now. And one of the reasons why we have relevant programs as one of our pillars, because we're trying to be more relevant to more people. So that was a long way of saying, I bet you that wouldn't change, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't change. But I'm not saying it should. I'm saying it's an interesting question.
Great. So our next question has come in from Kay Zettelmeyer, and Kay is asking if the art shows that we have had scheduled are going to go forward as previously planned. And I would say, I'll take that question. We are currently extending the exhibits that opened in February and March that closed almost immediately through the end of September, as Elena stated. Our summer programming is being postponed into 2021, or dates yet to be determined. Our fall exhibits are going to move forward in partial. I think if you're referencing our year in review, in which we had this very, very exciting slate of exhibits, those are all going to be modified. At this point in time, we do plan to open the Margaret Garcia exhibit on October 16th, pending any other challenges that we might have with the virus, and then also the plein air artwork that will go along with that exhibit. We did have a student exhibit, Ventura Unified School District, that went all online. We were unable to host that here, and I'm anticipating any and all school exhibits will be digital online exhibits going forward. Thanks, Kay. And Board Member Chess is just making the note that the Lake Museum was a site for antibody testing yesterday, and it was a full day working in collaboration with the county. And I think that is, let me just make sure I'm not missing any other questions. Now's your time to get your question in there. Oh, so one of our attendees wants to know, since we're extending memberships, how will I know my new expiration date? Will that be part of a letter that goes out?
I'm going to let Eric take that one.
Yes, right now we're in the process of going through the entire membership base and making sure that everybody who is an active member is going to get some communication sent to them with their new expiration date.
Great. Okay. Not seeing any new questions coming in. So we're at about 11:45. So Elena, I'll turn it back over to you for any final comments.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to everybody for taking a little bit of time in spending it here with us today. I would love to hear if you felt like this was worth it, or if you have any recommendations for next time. I'm at ebrokaw@venturamuseum.org. I want to say that I'm pretty sure I speak for all of the staff when I say that it is an honor to be at the museum at this point in time. It is a joy for me personally to have the support of so many of you, of the board, of so many community members, and to be able to be working in an historic institution during historic times. We feel the mantle of opportunity and responsibility very, very fully. and we are thankful to be here. So thank you to you for making it possible for us to do what we do.